So good morning, everyone. My name is Johan Melander. I am the owner, founder, CEO of Novacura. I will talk a little bit about the future, what we anticipate, what's going to be important, some observations or requirements, and also how the IT industry respond to the business requirements. So buckle up. It's going to take about 20 minutes. And don't worry, it's going to be like pretty high altitude on this session. But moving forward, we're going to go into more details. So hopefully there is an audience to all of these different sessions in the course of today. So I'm trying to change slide now, Jenny. It's not coming along. Let's see. There we go. What will the future look like? That's a kind of a tricky question. I guess George Orwell did a pretty good job when he anticipated, or maybe not, what will happen in the future. But these are some of our thoughts when it comes to our industry. The first one is really that we need to be ready for change. This has been constantly repeated over the many years. But we all anticipate that changes will come quicker, and we need to be more and more adaptive to the changes. Who could envision this COVID, that it would hit us in 2020? It came as a complete surprise. And there will be more changes moving forward. So organizations need to deliver innovation and adapt more quickly to respond to the changes, according to Gartner. Secondly, everyone and everything will be connected. So we will see basically all devices, everyone will be connected. And that will, of course, also affect our industry. So how many ERP users do you see on the picture? And I guess you can guess there will be plenty of them moving forward. We will also utilize artificial intelligence a lot more. We've started as like the entry point now when we get into customer service areas and support areas. We will see a lot more of this. And I guess I am one of the persons that believe it's probably safer going to a medical doctor in the future if I know that the doctor is powered by BI behind. So this will mean automation, but also probably more relevant answers in the future. We also need to adjust to the customer's need. The millennials have tons of requirements. They want it all, they want it now. So we can no longer talk about target groups or industries. We need to look into every company as unique, and also each and every individual as unique. So we need to conceptualize and personalize the application experience. It's also interesting to look at process data mining. Already a long time ago, a project was called T50, which was about to shorten the lead time with 50%. And I think it is about time to start not only to define our processes, but measure them, collect the process data execution, set process targets, and work with continuous improvements. So I think this will be important in the future to build efficient processes. Go mobile, sure, it's something that's been around for quite a while. Now we use mobile to almost everything. But I think it would also be even more important to start collaborating more using our mobiles. So the collaboration between customers, partners, and suppliers will just increase. And everyone is kind of expecting an app now. Isn't there an app for that? Every time you do something on paper, or if you have to make a phone call, people are a bit disappointing and say, don't you have an app? Of course, we need to optimize the supply chain, but probably optimize the entire supply chain, running through multi-layers. So this will, of course, mean automated integration, but also a lot of data exchange. And of course, all business goes online so that you can purchase via an e-commerce platform. And then you sort of anticipate that the entire supply chain is responding somewhere behind that web shop, more or less. So these are some of the business observations that we have identified, or business requirements. So let's look at how the IT industry have responded to this. Already back in 2014, Gartner introduced something called the bimodal approach. So at that time, the ERP systems were pretty rigid in mode 1. But the purpose of the bimodal approach was to speed up digitalization and allow organizations to focus both on something that is stable and predictable, as well as agile and fast. So a lot of IT organizations created 2 teams, one execution team and one innovative team. And I guess it was really important then that they both operated under the same purpose and objectives. So it kind of all, at the same time, it became apparent that most customers live in a heterogeneous environment. This dream about having one central ERP that supports all processes goes out the window. So most customers ended up in a mix of cloud, on-premise, packaged, and custom developed. And then it was a matter of defining unique applications that really supported the users in that context. I think at that time in 2014, yeah, sure, the cloud was present, but the cloud is becoming more and more present. So we see a shift going from right to left, basically. At that time, I think Gartner was thinking that of these monoliths or these systems down there to be sort of unbreakable. 2 years ago, Gartner introduced a new concept, which was basically to open up these systems and introduce something called PBCs, Packaged Business Capabilities. So by opening up these systems, they define small Lego components that all have their APIs and are open to the world. So basically, you could pick the best of breed. So the purpose again now is to deliver more innovation and adapt more quickly to the respond to these changes. So now it's the thinking is to define PBCs, to make that available, and to allow the customers themselves internally to develop together with business in an agile fashion to support the changes. So this is something that Gartner has introduced, and they call that the Composable Enterprise. Of course, the IT industry immediately picked up and they adopted this regime. So now we see 2 variants of this. I guess one promoted by Gartner, the composable architecture based on the best of breed solutions. So basically you cherry pick and you select the system that is best at that process. Or the ERP vendors responded by providing the composable architecture based on a monolithic ecosystem, all within the domain, the context of a vendor. And they're all moving to the cloud, like Info is moving to the cloud, IFS to the cloud, Microsoft is moving to the cloud. So I guess right now, the customers have to make a choice. Do they go with an composable architecture based on the best of breed, or should you stick and stay within the context of your vendor? And I think that is the tricky question right now. Should you go right or should you go left? So we see a lot of customers sort of in that choice right now, making a decision to go right or left. And of course, it doesn't happen overnight. It's an evolution, but still you need to have an IT architecture and IT strategy to support your the company's overall vision. Now, I guess the safe way to go, what makes the easy route, is to go with a monolithic ecosystem. To just take what is out of the box and work with what exists in your future cloud offering, whether you use Infor or Microsoft or IBM or IFS. To take the best of breed approach seems to be a bit more scary route. However, at the end result might be quite different depending on if you decide to go right or if you decide to go left. If you go right, you're probably more independent, and maybe you have delivered applications that are more suitable to the end users. You get more happy end users. If you go left, you might end up being locked in by the vendor. Of course, everything is not black and white, but these are things to consider as you move forward to define your IT architecture. Now let's look into some details. If you take the monolithic ecosystem, the cloud solutions, there are problems or tricky things. First of all, there's one standardized configuration for all customers. It's basically one standard that is rolled out. It is hard to customize the processes and it's very expensive. It also imposes an upgrade frequencies that it's dictated by the vendor. And I think it will be tricky to balance the demand from the real customers, the changes that is needed in business, with the changes that is made in the ecosystem, your ERP system. So it could be difficult to keep these two in sync, especially if you're imposed on an upgrade frequency that comes from your vendor. The second consequence is that it's a hermetic configuration. You have limited access to the raw data for third-party reporting database, and it could also be hard to retrieve the data when migrating to other systems. So the data is not as open as it was before, basically, when you were running on-prem. The third consequence will be much harder to integrate to local devices, to legacy systems, and to third-party systems. So all of the vendors now have decided, more or less all of them have decided to go with the OData standard. However, there are variants of the OData. So pretty much like EDI, there will be dialects of the OData. And these will impose challenges when you try to connect various devices to your ERP cloud. You could also end up being locked in by the vendor. So it could be difficult to replace particular elements or modules. There are lots of dependencies. Especially, I think the Microsoft customers feel that when they've been running the system for a while, that it's very hard to replace a component. They are very much integrated and interlaced with each other. So that will mean that it's quite difficult to change particular element and go with the best of breed. And it will be really difficult to change your core ERP. You end up doing that, you must do it all at once. And if you have to do it all at once, you have to do a lot of preparations and training. It's going to be a big bang, which is, of course, a risk. So, and to be quite frank, we believe that when you go with an ERP ecosystem or a cloud solution from just one vendor, you get the average of everything. You get the average of an e-commerce, an average an HRM, an average of a supplier portal. So nothing really stands out. So here are some examples of average, I think. So for instance, you may want to choose the best of breed CRM system. Here is just an example of a CRM system that comes from a monolithic system and the best of breed. Could be pretty much the same if you look into a team management tool, what comes out of the box and what is the best of breed. And the same is when it goes to a mobile user interface. So especially when mobility with the millennials, it's really important now to keep certain standards and be up to date. So it's important to know that your mobile apps are intuitive and easy to use. Let's look at, there are of course also challenges if you decide to go right. There are challenges. And go with the best of breed solutions. So you still have to think about the differences in the integrations in terms of systems, devices, user types, protocols. It's going to be a lot if you decide to go with the best of breed solutions. How do you integrate those into your ERP system? The second challenge will also be to process orchestration. So since processes now will run on top of multiple systems, you need a way to ensure consistency. And you need to make sure that you, for instance, do rollback if things fail. It could be a process starting up in CRM. And as you win this deal, you need to make that visible in the ERP system. Maybe use an S&OP system, a transplantation system, and a service desk. So somehow you need to do process orchestration to keep it all together and deliver a good solution for your business. And it could be even harder now with the stateless APIs. Stateless not allowing you to do proper rollbacks as you could do in the past. Now, our mission, how do we position ourselves in towards these requirements? I guess we would like to see ourselves that we will make it possible to connect to anything. Everything will be connected, and it's our task to help you to connect everything, basically, to support your future IT architecture. So we will help you to connect and to orchestrate all of these various components. If we look at the various integrations, we can see that we have a bunch of core business systems. If you take the Gartner approach, most likely they eventually need to be broken up into PBCs, packaged business capabilities. Because we would like to make it possible to integrate to all of these from various devices and users towards your core business systems. And secondly, we would like to do the process orchestration to make sure that the processes work seamlessly on top of these core systems or PBCs. Now, this was a lot of hokey pokey, 10,000 feet. So hopefully now we can drill down into more details and give you examples of how we connect to various devices and users. And real cases matter. Therefore, we have a few of our real customers present. So please stay tuned, stay with us. And we will, some of our real customers will present real live cases.